trembled as thunder split the heavens apart. Dark clouds rolled endlessly across the ancient African sky, swallowing the sun. For weeks, the storms had not ceased. Torrents of rain lashed the land, rivers overflowed their banks, and the once green valleys had turned into a maze of mud, death, and fear. This was the world of the early hominins. The Sahelanthropus tchadensis, small, upright beings standing barely a meter tall, yet bearing the first sparks of human endurance. Among them was Kura, a young female of her kind, with eyes that shone like polished stone, sharp, curious, and always watching. Her group lived near the edge of what would one day be the Sahara, though at this time it was a land of forests and swamps. The rains had begun months earlier than usual, and they had not stopped. The world had become a storm without end. The wrath of the skies. The storms had torn apart the forest canopy, leaving giant trees uprooted and paths blocked by fallen branches. Lightning struck the plains, setting fire to dry patches before the next flood drowned them again. For Kura's group, 10 individuals, old and young, survival meant constant movement. Their leader, Oren, a scarred male with a broken canine and a missing finger, led them toward higher ground every dawn. But even the highlands were no longer safe. The soil crumbled beneath their feet, and entire hillsides slid into roaring rivers. Food was growing scarce. The heavy rains had scared away many of the small animals they hunted and drowned the roots and tubers they once dug from the earth. Fruits were soaked and rotting before they could be eaten. The smell of decay was everywhere. One night, as the storm screamed like a wounded beast, Kura huddled under a fallen fig tree with her mother and a newborn child. The lightning illuminated their faces, tired, cold, and afraid. But within Kura burned something that the others didn't yet understand. A will to think beyond the next hour. The shelter of the wind. At dawn, the winds grew even stronger. The trees bowed low, their branches snapping. Oren led the group across the flooded valley, shouting warnings in grunts and calls. But when a tree collapsed between them and the others, the group split. Kura found herself alone with her mother, the baby, and 2 others, Rock, a young male, and Tanu, the oldest female, whose fur was silver with age. They climbed through the wreckage, searching for safety. Hours passed before they found a deep hollow, a cave cut into a hillside by centuries of rain. Inside, the air was dry. The walls glistened with minerals, and the roof slanted inward like a natural shield. For the first time in days, they could breathe without choking on rain. That night, as thunder rolled across the sky, Kura watched the cave entrance. The world outside flashed with light. She began to stack branches, leaves, and stones near the opening, instinctively trying to block the wind. Rock joined her, mimicking her actions. Together, they created a barrier, crude but effective. When Oren's group finally found them 3 days later, Kura's shelter had already become a sanctuary. It was the first human-made home, born not from comfort, but from necessity, the seed of civilization itself. The fire that would not die. The storms did not relent. Weeks turned into months. The endless downpour changed the land. Lakes formed where none had been before, and forests drowned in silence. One morning, after the thunder faded, the group discovered a marvel. A lightning strike had hit a tree not far from the cave, setting it ablaze. Smoke curled into the gray sky, and the burning trunk glowed like the heart of the earth. The others backed away in fear. But Kura stepped closer, her face lit by the flickering orange glow. The warmth drew her in. She stretched her hands toward it, feeling heat, light, and life. When the rain began again, she broke a branch and carried a glowing ember back to cave. It hissed and smoked but did not die. Inside the dry cave, she placed on a flat stone and fed it dry leaves and bark. Slowly, the flame came alive again. For the first time, the storm was powerless against them. They gathered around it that night, eyes wide, for glistening in the orange light. The warmth pushed away the damp cold. The fire crackled, and for the first time in human history, something new was born. Hope. The trial of hunger. The rain made hunting impossible. Many small animals had drowned or migrated. Even birds had disappeared. Oren, desperate, led the hunters farther each day. But they returned with little more than roots and wet leaves. Kura began watching the water's edge. She noticed that after the floods receded, fish and small animals were left stranded in the mud. One day, she used a sharpened stick to strike at the movement beneath the water and caught a fish. Rock copied her, and soon the others followed. It was a small act, but a great leap, the first tool-assisted fishing. They roasted the fish over the fire, the smell rich and smoky. It filled their empty stomachs and gave them energy to think, move, and survive. In the storm's endless fury, intelligence became their greatest weapon. The Great Divide. Months passed. The storm seasons grew worse. Some of the group began to lose faith in Orin's leadership. The cave could no longer feed them all. Whispers turned to growls, and growls turned to conflict. One night, as the wind howled outside, Orin challenged Rock for dominance. The fight was short and brutal. Rock struck Orin with a stone, and the old leader fell, his blood mingling with the mud. Kura watched in silence. She did not mourn Orin. Survival demanded strength, and Rock had proven it. Yet in her heart, she felt the weight of what had happened. Violence had entered their kind, and with it, the shadow of what humans would one day become. When the storms finally ended, after nearly a year, the rains weakened. The skies brightened, revealing a changed land. Rivers had carved new paths, forests had shifted, and the world looked younger, cleaner, reborn. Kura led a small group to explore. They found fallen trees where fruit now grew in abundance, and grasslands stretching farther than before. She carried a burning branch wrapped in bark, their sacred fire, and planted it in a new shelter, a dry hollow under a cliff. There, the group began again. Every night, they sat by the flame, watching it dance. They had learned to survive the endless storms, not through strength or speed, but through adaptation, cooperation, and a spark of thought. In their eyes glowed the first reflection of what humanity would one day be, a species that had tamed the fury of nature with will alone. Epilogue, the first legacy. The storms of 7.8 million years ago reshaped not just the land, but the spirit of the beings who lived through them. From that chaos was born the instinct to build, to protect, to think, and to dream. Kura's descendants would spread across the plains, carry with them the memory of the endless rain and the fire that would not die. And though the storms have long since faded into the silence of time, every fire we light today, in our homes, in our hearts, still carries the echo of that first spark that burned against the storm.